Hello? There we go. Now my voice is coming through. Turn that down a bit. Okay. Let me adjust this a minute. A little bit. That's good enough. Okay. So, today I want to start on something that I'm wanting to do for a while. But I know it's gonna take a long time and might suck to build, but it could be cool at the end. So a lot of people use like these things from a, I guess, organization or community or whatever called Servar, and it lets you manage like movies and TV and books and music and other things through these applications, and they're really, really cool and they work really, really well. Except up until recently, you could only use SQLite databases with them. And they added a feature where you could put in Postgres databases, which makes them run way, way, way better if you're running them on like servers with NFS, and for all sorts of reasons, it just works a lot better than SQLite when you actually go and deploy them. So, that's great. Only problem with that is they're really, really, really annoying to set up for Postgres. Like, you have to go and manually modify all these things and do all these special configurations, which, you know, if you're running it in Docker, it's not terrible. When you want to try and go run it in Kubernetes, it's even more annoying because those files typically are not persisted that much. And then obviously if you try to migrate, like if you set it up with the SQLite first and then try to use Postgres, there's a whole bunch of other problems. So I wanted to write something so that I could spin up all these applications and set them up with Postgres and basically handle all these configuration things for me. So how do we do that in Kubernetes? There's a fun little concept called an operator. And operators are essentially a piece of code that runs in your cluster that has access to the Kubernetes API, and that API, like with access to that API, it can manipulate objects, create things, destroy things, manage basically anything that you could do with the Kubernetes command line, it can do just through code. So that's nice. That means that we could write an operator that knows how to manage these Servar applications, and then we can just tell Kubernetes, hey, I want a radar instance, and it just knows how to like set all that up. Like it can handle all the Postgres things in the background without us having to like touch it or worry about it. So that's the goal. They are not the most easy things in the world to write, just because it requires a lot of really particular setup and really finicky like knowledge of how Kubernetes actually like works under the hood, how it tries to resolve different things and work. But I think it's a pretty neat project to work on, and we'll see what we can get done in the first little bit. The first steps of which is this. So this is kubebuilder. There's it and Operator SDK are the two that I know about, and they're related, but they're basically two ways to go about making a Kubernetes operator with Golang. And technically, you can make an operator out of any language, but Go is the one that is preferred by far in Kubernetes, mostly because that's where all the APIs are natively, so it's much easier for them to keep them updated and you can use a lot of the same stuff that Kubernetes uses natively, just with your own stuff. So there's a little bit of documentation. But yeah, so we're gonna go through this getting started, see what we can get set up, get kind of spun up and working, and we'll just kind of take it from there. So first things first is I need an operator name, and I'm gonna call it the pirate ship. I think that'll be fine. So let's do this. Do I have it? Kubebuilder is not a command that I can install. How do I install this thing? Yeah. Sure. That work? It did work. All right. Let's try doing something with sudo instead. That work? Aha! Perfect. So let's do kubebuilder init domain we're gonna call it, this is gonna be hosted on GitHub, so we'll do that. Huh? Am I missing something? That's what I typed, right? Why? Unable to inject the configuration, error fighting current repository. Oh. Pirate ship. So it just couldn't find a Go module, I guess. So does this work? Okay, well. That feels like that should be in the documentation, but whatever. Okay, so now we can open this. And that is a lot. Right. Got a make file, got a whole bunch of stuff. That's a lot of information. Okay, we create our first CRD, and we do... That is a lot of information. So let's, if I like break this down a little bit. Plugins. What's plugins? Run as user 1001 image port container. What is this? Reduce the custom resource and custom resource definition for the memcached kind. It creates an API with group version, uniquely identifying by leveraging the kubebuilder tool. Define our APIs and objects representing our solutions for these platforms. Only added one kind of resource in this example, as you may have many groups and kinds as necessary. The objective is to run an application as database on a Kubernetes platform. One object might represent the front-end app, while the other denotes a back-end database. If we define one CRD for the app and the other, Okay, yeah, separation of concerns, sure. Memcache specs section. So what's going on? Like, what does this image is? In this instance, we will utilize the deploy image plugin, get a comprehensive code implementation for our solution. Okay, so the plugin is doing something. So what does that do? Add optional features, deploy image. What does that do? Create controllers and custom resources which will deploy and manage an image on the cluster following the guidelines and best practices, abstracts complexities. Well, okay, so we can just say, like, make a thing. Okay. So then let's go and grab Linux server IO, because I really like their images, and they do this really nice thing where they make them all consistent. It's like they have radar, they have sonar, LiDAR, and what's the other one I care about? Radar? Yeah, radar. Okay. So we'll just start with the radar for right now. So we'll call this 1.5.1.3 stable. Why do I have two open? Oh, I don't care about you. Go away. So this is going to be... I actually want this from... Tab. Oh? So they just bricked... So hey, everyone that uses Xbox networking, they just bricked online gaming. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. They did the... What was the other thing they did? Oh, they pushed out a patch to like a smart home app or something like that. And it basically forked it to where every single printer showed up as like an HP printer. Like, hold on, let me see if I can find like Windows printer problem. HP. Where is it? Yeah, Microsoft investigating a Windows issue that's renaming all printers to HP LaserJet. They're batting 1,000 right now. That one colon dat version. Image container command. I don't think I really even need that, because I'll just use the normal one. Like, yeah, it's been fun to watch. So in this case, the port is 7878. Plugins. Have this run as 1,000. Okay, so let's create the things. So this is yeah, V1 alpha, or we'll call this pirateship.greatwar.com. I may change that later, but actually I'll just keep it like that, because if I really need to, so we'll call this a radar for now, and we'll just see what does that do. So we have a radar controller that has a lot of errors. Oh. So it's saying it can't, like it's missing a method. Right, radar, all these things. Yeah, missing method, deep copy object. So what's that about? Oh. Kubebuilder, deploy image, missing deep copy. Huh? So where's the... Did it generate the things it was supposed to? Okay, that's not it. I am confused. Do I just need to regenerate some things? Only all does all the builds. Aha! It was a make issue. Okay. So that generates all the... Okay. Cool. We're good. We're all good. Number of radar instances. I actually don't know if you can run multiple even with Postgres. So we'll see if we're going to keep that, but that does quite a lot actually, because that will do... So that like takes care of most of the boilerplate, right? So see if there's errors getting it. We're not created. We should stop the reconciliation. Status as unknown. Set the status unknown when it's unavailable. So conditions is a array of conditions. Conditions are alright, so there's a validation pattern type. Okay, I'll work with that in a little bit. I mean, let me go back to this. So there's that. You can create APIs using this plugin. Let's go back to this. Right? Employing markers, like, yeah, validation minimum, and I have a bunch of ways that I can do stuff with that. Manifest located under config samples. Okay. So right, that can create a radar with these sorts of things. I wonder... I guess I can check that. Does this add a finalizer? Right. Which I'm still not clear on what a finalizer does, but see, it is marked to be deleted. If it doesn't exist, create a new deployment based on deployment for radar, which is this thing, which creates all this stuff. Generates labels. Uncomment the following code to configure node affinity expression according to platforms supported by your solution. Consider back to 12. Right, node affinity, okay. Security contexts. So then you got radar. Okay, so this is where I can define like what it means to spin this thing up. It'll run as user 1000. Cool. That's an interesting way to do it. That feels different, but okay. Okay, so that does all that. So that, I can probably do the same thing then. And generate a bunch of stuff for, like, radar, servar, like, run things for everything. I can go in here into the fleet. Go find sonar. 3010, I'm assuming is the stable, or it's the latest, whatever. I can make this 310 sonar. This is going to be of type sonar. And then its port is different. Its port is, I think, 8989. 989. Cool. Then if we make that again, we should see everything work out. There we go. It figured itself out. It takes a minute, but it'll get there. Okay, so now what? What are we doing now? I guess, yeah, I'll just go through and make one for each of the applications I care about. So yeah, radar, sonar, radar, and LiDAR. LiDAR. This is going to be lidar. Version that, and then its port is one of these things. 8686. Cool. And then one more for radar. What's Fleet? Fleet is a project by Linux Server IO. I don't know exactly who they are, but they essentially take a lot of open source projects and they bundle them and package them in Docker containers that have really consistent like configuration options. So like just about all of these respect similar environment variables, and they kind of package them and mark them in their own way. So it's a really easy way to grab a lot of really common open source projects and configure them in a way that feels consistent. It's like all of them have PGID, PUID, time zone. Like it's just a really nice collection of open source projects. So I really like using their. I really love using their images because they're usually pretty well vetted. And they run a lot of things. Like you can see, like they have their own version of things they upkeep and change and have a really stable platform on. So especially for projects that don't necessarily keep up with their own Docker images, they're really good about it. Let's see. Last one is radar, right? Yeah. I guess we'll do that. I don't. I can think of a couple of ways. Because what you would essentially have to do is try to package the Docker runtime in that exe as well. If you had a way to do that, but I see. So yeah, you actually probably can still run the yeah, then you might be out of luck then. If it doesn't support virtualization, then you're not going to be able to package just about anything because you need to at least be able, even if you were able to package like everything with it, you would still have to support virtualizing the Linux kernel in order to do it. You can package the exe, so if the project you're working with has the ability to compile to Windows, you could compile that to an exe, but the like Docker containers themselves still require the underlying kernel to still be available. So a Linux container still requires the underlying operating system to have access to Linux containers. So that's like why in order to run Linux containers on Windows, you have to have WSL installed and working, because it still needs those underlying kernel syscalls to operate. Not that I'm aware of. I think if you can't run WSL and you can't virtualize anything, then you're kind of out of luck on that end, unfortunately. Yeah, you'd have to compile it for Windows then. I mean, they can certainly try and add it. I guess depends on the size of the project, really, and how much their user base really wants to interact with it. Like, obviously, they have at least one user, but in my experience, they'll need a few more for it to really be worth it for them. Why? does it think sonar is? I am using, I think this is, oh, is this Cinnamon or XFCE? I don't remember the exact one I use. I think I use, one sec. Yeah, I always have like a Linux something or other down. Yeah, it is Cinnamon. So yeah, I usually just use this because that's the one that I've gotten used to now. So, or actually no, I'm using the Edge edition because I have a newer GPU, so I needed the Edge. It's nice to play around with, and just having a Linux environment you can just boot into is saved me so often. Even like WSL is good, but nothing will ever beat just. Yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate part. It's nice to like distro hop and do the whole like, you know, I use Arch by the way, but at some point it's you just need something that's gonna work. Where does this image come from? Image for sonar. Oh. So where does that environment variable come from? Interesting. So 1, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. That should be sonar. I fucked this up quite a bit. So no, so the applications that I'm trying to like create a thing for are from the servar. And basically they're like media library managers or maintainers. So there's one for music, one for movies, one for books, one for TV. And I'm trying to make a Kubernetes operator so I can just give it a custom resource definition and it handles all the configuration for it. Because they are kind of annoying to configure, especially if you want to use an external database. And yeah, I just want to do it that way. So I do think I've fucked some of this up. So like I only want one sonar image to find. So I'm gonna have to figure this out here. So there's sonar, all this stuff. Yeah, so it can manage, I can probably pull up one of mine. So like I can pull up my things, like if I take all this off. It's like it can hold all the TV shows, it can tell you what episodes you have, what quality they're at, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it can work for your book library, your music library, any kind of media library it can figure out how to use. So let's see. So I think that's all fine. Because all these should be essentially the same. Because they're all just looking up the image there. Right, controller manager. Okay, so that's how it gets deployed. Yeah, I can give you a link to kind of the main thing. So that's the wiki right there for it. and it's got all like the configurations for everything, the installation guides, like for all your platforms. It's a really great set of tools and a really great project. I tried Kodi for a little bit, but it just wasn't where I wanted it to be able to share it with like other people. So just ended up being something I didn't really love. So I want one sonar reconciler, radar, lidar. Right, and then I make. Yeah. I mean, they're great for like local stuff, but I wanted to be able to share it like with my friends and things. So yeah, there is a lot of that, unfortunately. So, but I mean, that's always going to be a thing. So I think at this point, so I've got sonar, radar, lidar, and sonar. Yeah, and that is pretty nice. It is pretty good, and there's a lot of these projects that kind of been going on in the background. These are kind of in the, I guess, like gray areas, because they're like, you know, they can go and automatically download stuff. That is a feature they have. So it's a gray area thing for a lot of people, but yeah, and there's not really a lot of those anymore. Like the like one platform for everything. Like even this, like you have to set up 4 different applications, and they don't really have a good like unified interface. It's a bunch of different ones. But I don't know. Maybe there's something for that. Yeah. So let's see. I'm actually curious. How do you test this thing? There you go. S sonar. Interesting. Okay. So I think at this point I have like a really basic version, because I can spin up each of these applications like I can spin them all up and they're all gonna hook up to the right port. Yeah, I mean pretty much. Like it's pretty easy to get set up. Yeah, I mean automation's nice. They definitely have ways to do it, and you can get really sophisticated with them with like Usenets and setting up specific indexers and quality gates, and you can get really into it. Mine's a pretty basic setup because I don't need much. I just need the shows downloaded and we're good. Latest state of the resource. So I think So yeah, it's using Go. You'll find that the vast majority of tools and applications and services, it's a lot of the tools you'll find around like DevOps-esque things are almost all written in Go. Just because it's become like the easiest language to really work with, and especially in Kubernetes. Kubernetes itself is written in Go, so when you're trying to use you're trying to use their API, the easiest way to go about it is is Go. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. So I think this is fine. What do I actually, now that I think about that, where do I go from here? Define the API, markers and validators, right? I can have validation on it. We'll go back. Return to restart with an error, out an error. Therefore, to stop the reconciler, use that. Again, after X times. What? Okay, that's just going over the reconciler again. So is persistently observant, monitoring any events associated with this kind as a result changes instantly sets off the reconciliation process. We have implemented the watches feature, allows us to monitor events related to creating, updating, deleting a custom resource with the memcache kind, as well as the deployment. Will also be watched in order to ensure its desirable state. Right. You're overseeing the controllers. So what does all that thing? At this point, you can primarily execute commands highlighted in the quick start. By executing that, you'll build the image for your project. For testing purposes, it's recommended to publish this image to a public repository. Ensures easy accessibility, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to quick start. I'm actually going to use kind for this. Because I'm basically going to spin up a cluster locally, and that will allow me to basically run all my testing without having to actually make a cluster and run it. I can just run it on my computer using Docker as the engine for it. So it's a lot, but it's running Docker in Docker, or running Podman in a Docker container for Kubernetes. So what I want are nodes, this thing. So yeah, so I can do a cluster config.yaml. API version K8S.ino/v1 alpha 4. Yeah, anytime, man. I appreciate you coming to the stream. It definitely takes a bit to get into and understand, but I feel like it's one of those things that, like, once it clicks, like, you start picking up all kinds of things with it. Let's see, so there's that. Control plane, worker, worker. Okay, so I have one control plane, 3 worker nodes, and that should get me most of the way there. Yeah, I don't really care about that. Just whatever the most recent one is. Yeah, so we'll call this pirate ship test cluster. Yeah, dash dash config. That's what? Kind up, I think? Like kind create, something like that. Yeah, kind create cluster config. Cluster config. Ow. Always fun. Okay. So I gotta figure this one out. I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole, I guess. Do I have Docker installed with this? Not Dicker. I think that works. Home manager, Docker. Hold on. God fucking. Okay. Please don't tell me I gotta log out, log back in. Alright. We're gonna go make our way around this. Repos. There we go. So that'll create our cluster. Let's see. Cool. So now I should be able to say Yes, there we go. Actually, do I have to do... Oh, I bet it's... Yep. Okay. Cool. Okay. There we go. So now we've gone on that little rabbit hole. Let's see what else we can get done. All right, quick start. Test it out. Kubernetes to use kind to get a local cluster. All right, so let's install it. And should be able to actually look at. And there's my custom resource definitions. Woo! Okay. So now, so that will run the controller in the foreground. So then apply the samples. So I have a LiDAR, a radar, a radar, and a sonar. And under that radar, if I go to pods, happened. Errors. A lot of errors. Failed to define new deployment. Unable to find sonar image environment variable with the image. I see. So I need to export all of these first. And then I can... Okay, that's fine. Heck. Sonar image. What's that? LiDAR image. What's that? Radar image. I'm not a huge fan of this. I'd really prefer to be able to configure it as part of it. But I guess this is fine for now. Yeah, I'm changing that. So I need to go into the controllers for each of these. Like we go to radar, for example, and they have a function called image for radar. And I don't want this to be from, so image for radar. So yeah, I want the radar then. So I want in my API for each of these, you know, you have a size, you have a container port, and then I want another one called version. So then how does it define? Where's the port? Radar spec container port. So that just always has to be defined. Okay, let's see if we go to this and we go to the markers. As like, I want something that is going to be, like, how do I set the defaults? Markers here. Where am I here? CRD validation. Sets the default value, yes. Okay. Kubebuilder validation default. So let's go back to my manager, wherever that went. Where the hell are we? Manager. So that's what's holding all my stuff. So for radar, this is going to default 513. It feels. So how do I know if they're required or what? How do I set that? So it says okay, wait. Okay, this still doesn't tell me what the default is though. I'll just mark them all as like whatever I want them to be, because that one's optional because it has a default. That'll do the same thing for this. The default's going to be 7878. And it's going to be optional. So now in my controller, as part of this, I need the radar. So now instead of this, it's going to look more like tag is equal to spec.version. If tag is empty, although it should validate that for me, right? That should definitely validate that for me. Then I can just say return that this tag. And then don't use any of this. Now that is going to return the image like that. I do need to fix up some of these things. Don't do that, just pass around the radar pointer. Like it's not that different. Radar.name. Easy. This gives me immediate access to everything I want. Like, perfect, beautiful. So that's radar, and I basically have to do that for everything. Let's open this. That's radar, radar, sonar, LiDAR. I want to take the same stuff from here, slap that in here. This is radars, yeah. This is 145. Take the same container port stuff. But the radar port is 8787. So that's radar done. Sonar. Default version there. I don't think that's the right. I think radar's wrong, but I will worry about that in a minute. Sonar default container port. 8989. Perfect. It's a default, optional, default, optional, default, optional. That looks wrong. Yeah, it is wrong. That's the default radar version. It's radar. I think sonar's done. I think LiDAR is the only one left. Yeah. It's the LiDAR port is 8666. All right, and then adding the version to here. And then the default version for that is here 145. Okay, so now all the types are done. So then I go to each of their controllers, scroll down to where it gets the image. Where is it? There it is. That is essentially what I want to do for LiDAR, radar, and sonar. LiDAR. Yeah, so this is now going to be LiDAR. LiDAR.name. Because this just makes so much more sense to me. And go and do the same thing for radar. A pointer to pirate ship blah 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 dot radar. Radar tag. Radar.name. And last bit. Should see, paste that in, call that sonar, call that sonar. Sonar. And just keep going up the list. Sonar.name. Just pass in a sonar. Sonar. Okay. So that should now, if I run this again, now that I've done all that. Actually, I think I need to run make first. And then reinstall the CRDs. Do all that, because they're going to be slightly different now. So if I change them, yeah. Oh, did I really close it? So now in CRDs, oh, they're still there. Why are they still there? Is it because these are still there? I don't get it. Okay. Let's see if it doesn't matter. Oh, right. Nothing can actually... Ha. Huh. All right. Let's try this. How do you take a thing down? All right, so let's try that again. Perfect. Let's see. Yeah, because now that's not gonna work. So that should, in theory, give me what I'm looking for. Okay. So now I should have a... There we go. A little bit of a workaround, but now those CRDs are in. So run the controllers and apply those. Deployment sonar sample already exists. Invalid image name, invalid image name. What? No, it's supposed to have defaults. Why does it not have defaults? Damn it. Also, why does it think that the deployments all have the same name? Big samples, LiDAR, radar, radar, sonar. Yeah, there's only one. What is it saying? Saying all this, right. Right, yeah, they already exist. That's fine. Not that button. What happens if I default, if I kill the sonar sample? Okay, now they're all going away. Cool. Great, so that all works fine. It's just they're not getting the defaults that they should be. And they all say unchanged. So where are the... Like somewhere in my radar CRD, I should find 7878. No. Why? Markers. Modify how CRD validation schema is produced for the types and fields that they modify. Each correspond to something. A default value will be accepted as any value in the field, formatting types. Right, so why is that not doing that then? A default value will be accepted as any value valid for the field. Formatting for common types include wait, is it supposed to be... Hold on. I think I figured out where I messed up. Is it supposed to be that? You're supposed to be that. You're supposed to be that. Manager CRD webhooks. Point 3, yeah, that should be fine, right? String cluster, does this need to be quoted because it has too many dots in it? Yes. Means the radar one figured. So now, be able to find 7878. There we go. Okay. Hate that, but sure. Default equals default equals. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. LiDAR, radar, do the same thing. And in sonar. Now, they should all be configured. All right. Now we'll run this. That'll run. Now apply them. Aha! Damn it. Unable to gain root privileges. Okay, that's fine, I think. Like, that's something we can fix. But we are getting somewhere. So all of these, like, I'm just gonna focus on just getting radar to work at the moment. So let's go to the radar controller. I have to, I think it has to do with the security context. So unable to gain root privileges is the SUID bit set. Unable to run make dir. Unable to run, unable to run. So let's do this then. Because I think what it's going to need is env. Alright, so name, I'm going to use the documentation I have for it. PUID and the PGID. Is the PGID, or no, value is 1000. PGID 1000. Does that have the right stuff? Like, did it actually get the environment? Yeah, it got the environment. Controls the flag we send there. Actually, let's look something up real quick. I want the K8S at home. It's an archive, but this one. I want to see what values it had. Metrics exporter. Which just had all the default stuff. What did the default? It's BJW chart. Library, common. What? By default, it has no security context. I mean, let's just see if that works. Delete that. What are you having a problem with now? As run as non-root and image will run as root. It shouldn't have run as non-root. I didn't set any of that. Doesn't have any of that. Oh, why am I so tired? Let's see, can I find... I want to find, like, run as non-root. Or security context. All these different things. Because we can see this security context. I don't think it has anything. Yeah, nothing. So this should just be whatever the default is. Oh, it has this. So yeah, take off all the security context stuff. Try that again. There we go. So I should be able to see now. We go to browser. Beautiful. That now gets set up based on our custom resource definition. So that's what I need to do, is take out all the security context stuff for, at the very least for now. Because it just causes problems. If I really want to lock it down later, I will. But I don't have control over the application, so I would rather just not deal with it. And if people have been using it without the security context for however long that chart's been around, I'm not going to worry about it that much. If I really feel a need to lock it down, or somebody really, you know, if this project goes somewhere and they really want to lock it down, I can add just a security context like thing here. And then you can configure it if you want. So that should now be fine. So I can see my radars. I'll delete that one. Go and apply my samples. Now all of these created deployments. We can see LiDAR, radar, radar, sonar, all creating and all up and running. Beautiful. So all that for deploying a pod. Great. That gets us somewhere. So what now, I guess? So like, let's look at their docs real quick, because there's a couple things that I know about these applications. Namely, if I go into one of these, like, I'm gonna keep using radar because I know it the best. If you go into, so yeah, that's config XML does that, which has all of its things there. And that's somewhere we need to touch. The other place we need to touch is in, where is it? So I worked as a project on this a long time ago called config.r, because I wanted to be able to automatically configure things. How does it do it again? Internal, where was it? It was something like an init.js, something like that. There's something that I did. Was it in config? Yeah, initialize.js. Which I was able to find. Which, yeah, so basically what that file is, if I forward to this again, go to localhost 7878 slash initialize.js. They kill that? Or can I not spell? Did they really kill off? Service address port slash. Maybe they did. That would be really depressing. Oh. But that used to be, anyway, where a lot of the initialization stuff would happen, and you could grab the API key from that, and it was completely unauthenticated. It was super nice for automated setups, but I guess technically not very secure, so. But what I am interested in is I need. Here's what I need. We look at this pod. It doesn't have any volumes on it. I need this config XML bound to that is not that hard to do. Because basically I want to bind all these config XMLs to config maps instead, so that I can manipulate them in Kubernetes land and they get mapped into here and everything's fine. That's what I want to see. I think I can do that. Because then I can just have, like, so like, let me do some real quick. Because I basically want to go into each of these. So like this one is LiDAR. Radar. Radar. Like they're all real similar. So like I can just take that, pull it into my own thing, and then use that to template out everything. I can even unify all the API keys and make it a platform. I really wanted to. So I actually want to see authentication required on radar. See, I will have to do some comparison with all these. So like, let's pull these into something. Temp.xml. So let's see if we can pull all these in. Really? God. Okay. Do let's do this. Let's make a quick folder for app config examples. Pull that in there. Config.xml. This needs to be /config/config.xml. Radar. Just gotta go through, do them all. Just /config/config.xml. And then LiDAR. /config/config.xml. Okay. So now I can look at all these and kind of compare them. So launch browser, authentication method is here. Authentication method. The only one that has authentication required is radar. So let's see what happens. I go to radar and forward into it. Okay, all right, so this is its default. Disabled. Is this the only one that does that? I think a few of them might. If I go localhost 8989, that should be Sonar. Doesn't have it. Doesn't seem to require it yet. What's the other one? Localhost 8787, is that one? So that's LiDAR, also doesn't have it. That one, no. 8686. 8666. Also doesn't have it. So I'm curious, if I go to radar and I say basic auth admin, I go back into radar, what does it save it as? Basic and disabled for local address. And then I'm assuming that username and password is stored in that database somewhere. At least I hope it is. Right, that's all the C# stuff. Let's see, can I find like HTTP or Apache or Nginx or something? No? Guess that must be all inside. Okay, so radar is going to be the troublesome child. But they do modify the config XML. So let's see. K8S big map read slash, right? Yeah. So you can't modify it, which is not great. Although I guess I could just that option. Like each of these has a few like weird bits. Because I would rather K8S Operator write to container volume mount file. I could write a custom init container to set all this stuff up, and then it modifies the files that I need in a particular way. And then the operator configures the init container to do that. That's an option. So like, let's try Excalidraw. I've never used this before. Let's see what we got. That's nice. So, God, please, dark mode. Thank God. So we have, right now we have our operator. Over here, and it's doing its thing. Then we have a couple of, like we've got radar CRD. And we've got one for radar, one for sonar, LiDAR, and radar. So we got our operator up here, and then we have our CRD declarations. Like I want a radar, I want a sonar, I want a LiDAR. These all do that. These are then going to have, I'll focus in on radar. So this goes to a, it's like this creates the radar pod, which is itself going to have like its container, and then radar container. Because what I need for them to share is I need both of them to have access to a few underlying things, namely the /config directory. Right? So if they both have access to it, this init container can go in and change the XML, do all it needs to do before this starts. So like set up all the Postgres stuff, which, so the only thing that I need to do now, right? So like they should all be using the Postgres database, but I want them to all use the same database, which is what I'm gonna have trouble figuring out. Because I could so what I could do is I can make another API version over this one, and it's responsible for creating like the platform, if you will, like a server platform. And it creates the radar, sonar, like all those custom things, and then links them all to the same database and other like top level platform services. I think that's fine. That sounds doable. It's like if I create a top level object called like a server platform or whatever, or call it a pirate ship, and then I basically embed what services do you want enabled. Do you want a radar, a sonar, a LiDAR, whatever are? And then it goes in and configures all of them to say, hey, all right, you're all using this database. You're all going to connect to this system. All have this stuff. It'll provision the database and set it up. Like if you want it to run one, or you can just give it credentials. I think that works. So like if we went in, like let's see if I can just create a blank API. Yeah. So I want to do kubebuilder create API group .com. It's a group, right? I think so. Yes. Version v1 alpha 1. Kind pirate ship. And that should scaffold out everything I need here. Now I have this pirate ship type. And that should allow me to do a handful of things. So I think I'm just gonna steal like the status or the conditions from this one. Steal conditions, and then it's gonna have so let's see. So I want the radar to be a radar. I mean empty. So that gives me a radar. No, I want it to be a radar spec. Because this is what you're speccing out, a radar. And then like a sonar, a LiDAR, and a radar. Right, sonar, LiDAR, radar. So then like a sonar spec, a LiDAR spec, and a radar spec. But I also want to have like I guess these are all optional. So I just need to know like, hey, did they say they wanted this thing? Size, container, version. So I guess what I actually want is enable bool JSON enable spec is a radar spec. Right, that's what I want. And then this will be a sonar spec, a LiDAR spec, and a radar spec. So anything that you can configure on individual, you can do this, but it'll take care of a lot of the configuration defaults for you. So I basically have to implement Postgres for each one of them. So I need to create an init container, which I'll do at some point. But I just want to get like this all working as like a make a platform sort of thing. And then I can worry about adding Postgres. Because once I can control them all from a single CRD, and I can say, all right, everything under this is going to all be considered the platform. Then I can add all sorts of other stuff. Let's go ahead and make what does it not like? For radar to deploy. Radar sonar, blah, 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 blah. That all seems fine. Can I tell what it failed at? Struct to scheme. Does it not like the inline struct? All right. Type platform radar is going to be this. We'll do platform sonar, LiDAR, radar. LiDAR, sonar, radar. And that becomes, you know, platform whatever. Platform sonar, platform LiDAR, platform radar. Yep. Did not like the embedded structs. All right, good to know. So, okay, that's fine. That's got all that. Config, samples. Yeah. So then we're gonna have something like radar, sonar, LiDAR, radar, enabled, all that's enabled, and then you have spec. Actually, that's almost all we need now. That's how big do you want it? And even then, we might even get rid of that. So that should be, once all the stuff is implemented, all we really need to do in order to deploy the whole thing. It's just that. So let's see what we have for controllers right now. Very, very little. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. That's neat. How long do I think this will take? Because I don't want to do this into like late into the night. I think I can get better things done with that. So like, I don't know, I feel like I can rip most of it out of here. Or not yet. Pirate ship. Yeah, pirate ship. Fire. Is not found. That. Right, so that is basically exit, but don't worry about it. Right, so I can return that as an error from my resolver. I think works. Does that work? Yeah. That's just getting it. Right. So I got that. So now I have the object. And now I say conditions is nil, or the length of conditions. So set the status to unknown. Okay, meta dot. There's meta v1. Type available. I see. That's what I need these for. Hardship. Available. If there's no conditions, right? Available pirate ship. Meta v1 dot condition unknown. Message. Starting reconciliation. That I think is pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, set the status condition on this thing to this. So wait, if set status condition sets the corresponding condition in conditions to new what? If the condition of the specified type already exists. So the conditions that I have can either be available or degraded. So it says it doesn't know if it's available, unknown. Okay. I think eventually those statuses will reflect like the underlying applications, but that's going to be for later. And then refetch it. Okay, this is the finalizer bit. It's like there was something up here, right? Yeah. So I'll add that in as well. This is going to be a Are all those the same finalizer? Yeah. All right, well. It's fine. So let's add a finalizer. Controller dot contains finalizer. That's controller util. Pirate ship finalizer. For pirate ship. If okay. Controller util dot add finalizer. Log that error. Resource return. Yeah, basically try again. Okay. Failed to update custom resource to add analyzer. Still error. Okay, so that adds a finalizer. So yeah, I gotta check, are these things marked for deletion? If it found all the stuff, okay. Pirate ship dot get deletion timestamp. It is marked for deletion. Then I should do all these things. For pirate ship. So set the status downgrade to define this, that the resource is beginning the process of being terminated. Okay. This should say create a pirate ship. So yeah, set the status, update it. Pirate ship. Pirate ship. Yeah, update the status so that it knows that it's going down. Which I'm assuming gets defined. Yeah, right there. Give it an event recorder. Pirate ship. Or pirate ship. Ensure that all worked fine before deleting and updating, otherwise you should requeue here. I don't think I have any finalizer things to do. See, I think the rest of this I can pretty much just copy. And then change all these to pirate ship, because it's basically just set more, like, get the most like, do whatever you need to do to clean up your application. Set the status that you're about to delete it. You know, remove the finalizer status. And then you're done. Because Kubernetes will actually handle all the actual, like, deletion of owned resources, right? So, like, somewhere down here we set, like, some ownership. So yeah, this is like, if the size is different, this is how you update that. Something in here does set controller reference. So that allows you to say, hey, when this thing gets deleted, delete its children and then delete itself. It works out pretty nice. Now we're in the meat of it. So basically I need to do I need to have this entire, like, resolution found, you know, update sort of thing for radar, sonar, like all the applications. So yeah, I want radar, sonar, LiDAR, radar. And honestly, I think that is going to be a really good run for the next stream, because that's going to take a while. And that's when we'll really get to see, like, the whole platform start to come together. So, like, next stream we'll get these resolvers figured out. And then we'll add in the Postgres resource. I think that'll be good for, and that'll do, like, quite a lot. Because then I just need to add the, like, basically get these resolvers done, get the database set up with all the specs and all that, then I can pull, extract all that information, do all that. And then use that to configure these resolvers from, like, the status or from another config secret or whatever, right? Like, above this is going to be like resolve func for DB. right? So I resolve the DB, I get its data out, which involves creating a user secret in the namespace, which I can then use to configure the rest of these, like the environment variable for the rest of these, or the init containers for the rest of these, right? And then you can have like a whole platform. You just say like, hey, I want all these applications, set them up, go nuts. And then I can add in a lot of the, or some of the code that I have from config.r. Because what config.r does is it goes to each of these applications and says, okay, specifically goes and connects them to Prowler. Because Prowler is what gives you like indexers for all these. So it can go through and connect, say, okay, radar, sonar, lidar, radar, here's your Prowler, and like do all this setup automatically. So you're gonna have like, all right, func for the database, and then up here you're gonna have another one. Resolve func for, so set up Prowler, set up the indexer, and then actually even above that. So like this is the order of things that have to happen in. Or a download client, which I want to do, I really do, but that's like a stretch. This is a maybe. Like once I can get, that's like if I get everything done and I'm not completely burned out on this project, we'll try to get like download clients working, because those, none of those are fun to configure automatically. None of them. They're all terrible to configure. So yeah, so you set up the DB, you get Prowler going, and then you're able to configure the init container, which will probably be some derivative of config.r, which will go in and configure all of these services to run on this database and talk to this Prowler. Because then you have things like, let's go over here, like these can set up services, these can set up ingresses, this can set up all sorts of things so that the moment that you hit start, it goes, sets up everything, and then you just type in a URL and you're there. Which I think would be cool. Yeah, this is going to be our goal for like priority 1 for all these is like these 4 right here, or we have, because this is going to be what allows us to do everything else. Because everything is going to cascade together, right? You have your platform resource at the top. It's managing your 4 application specs as well as the database spec. Those 4 database specs all get reconciled into a deployment, a service, an ingress, a pods, whatever. And then all that basically culminates in you now have this platform that everything's connected together, everything's wonderful, and you just turn it on and you can start going. That's the goal. But yeah. I will continue this next stream. I don't know when it'll be. I might try to stream Friday just to get more time on this, because this is going to be a very interesting project and it's going to take a lot more time if I only stream once a week. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and until next time.